Hey guys, this is Craig with Livingston Welding. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on some brackets. We need to fabricate up about 20 L brackets, and we're going to make them out of 2" by 3/8 mild steel flat bar. And we're going to be using the IRONWORKER to punch holes in them, and right behind you here we're going to be using the press brake to bend them. And it should make pretty quick work since they're all going to be the same. Alright, so that's what we're working on today, guys. So let's get going. Alright, so we got over on this side of the IRONWORKER. On this side, right here in this particular tool, this is where we can cut off flat plate up to, I think it does up to 18 inches wide, but it doesn't actually do very good if you try to cut something that wide. But should do pretty good on these. I know my tool edges in here need to be flipped around. So it's probably going to leave kind of a bad little end piece. I'll show you after I get them cut, just because I need to flip that. But for today I'm not flipping it, I'm just gonna cut them. But what I need to do is I'm gonna put my machine in jog, and I'm gonna run the blade down so I can butt the end of it up against my blade, and then I'll measure off my guard, because all my marks need to come off my guard to take out for this offset right here. Instead of me trying to do math to figure out what the offset is, I'll just run it in there, bump it up against my blade, and then I'll take all my measurements back off the guard. So I'm going to do that real quick. Now the next thing I want to do is to adjust this guard. You don't want a gap right here when you cut it, because it'll bend your flat bar. So what you need to do is loosen these up, and I'll run my guard down onto my metal. I don't want it super tight because I still want to be able to slide it up under it. But generally what I've seen is on this IRONWORKER you kind of run it down till it's kind of buttoned up against it. And then usually on the first cut it'll put just enough looseness in there that it'll let it slide for you. Alright, now we're good and square up against our guide right here, and we're up against our blade. So now I'm going to come off of there, and I'm going to put a mark at 10 inches, because I'm going to make my L brackets 6 inches, and I'm going to bend them at a 90 degree angle. I'm going to make the bottom leg of the L bracket 4 inches, so total is 10 inches. And on this IRONWORKER, it doesn't take out a core or anything, so I can mark dead on my lines, and I don't have to worry about losing any material or anything. I'm basically going to be cutting up this whole sheet. 10 inches times 20 is 200, so I'm basically going to use this whole sheet, a whole stick, and maybe some more. So, got my first mark at 10, my next mark will be at 20. Better make them a little bigger so I can see them. 30, 40, and so on. Alright, so I got it all laid out now. Now I can just start pushing in and chunking them. Now this IRONWORKER actually has an automatic feature on the back where you can push it in, and when it hits it, it'll come down, but for some reason it quit working. I gotta figure out what's going on with it. But it's just as easy just to line your marks up with the thing and press the button. So. See, I got it on mark. Now we'll press the button. So, as you can see, IRONWORKER is pretty handy. It took us what, 2-3 minutes to knock out that? Not long at all. So, nice piece of equipment. Now, what we're going to be doing next with the IRONWORKER is we're going to be punching out the holes. So, alright, so I don't know how well it'll show up on the camera, but one thing you do get with the IRONWORKER is if you can see that little burr right on the end right there. So, what we need to do is knock that little burr off the end. One side, see, it's good, and then your other side's gonna have a clunk on each one. So we'll take it over to the belt sander and knock that edge off. That'll help us later with getting it into place and knocking our holes, and you won't be catching on that burr every time. So that's what we're gonna do next. So, just hit it with the belt sander and just knock that little burr off. That's all I'm doing. And I'm not worried about the other edges and stuff on it, because where these are going, you're never going to see them. They're going to be behind masonry work. So you're never going to see them again, so I'm not really too worried about rounding off the edges and all that kind of stuff. Alright guys, so I don't have the job to show you, so I just drew you a picture of what we're making. That might make more sense. So what we got here is there's gonna be a wood post here, and there's concrete here. There's nothing fastening these wood posts to the concrete. So we're gonna use 4 L brackets to do that job. We're gonna use these 2 holes here are gonna be our 9/16 holes, and that is for our 3/8 lag bolts to go through into the wood. Then this hole here is gonna be 5/8 in order to put a 1/2 inch wedge anchor down into the concrete in that hole. So that's what we're making, if that makes things easier. So this particular iron worker has these fences right here, and it has scales on the side that you can use to line all this up so that you don't have to lay out all your pieces. So this is 2 inches thick, and I want to hit the center of it. But if I drag this all the way up to 1 inch, then what happens is my guard back here will interfere with it. See how it's going to hit my, it's not my guard, it's my depressor. Once the punch goes through it, then it kind of sticks. So you got to have this to push your metal off your tooling. And what happens is this interferes when you get it up that close. Alright, so I got this side set at 1, this side set at 1, so I should be square with the machine. And then the next thing I got to set up is my other stop, so when I get to where I want my hole to be at, I can just push it up against that stop. So what I got here is this little stop right here. I want to set it at 9. I don't want to set it at 1, because if I set it at 1, then all this stuff interferes with my depressor. So I want to set it at 9 to give me plenty of clearance back to this hole. So, because I want my first hole 1 inch down from the top. I'm going to use a square to line me up with this 9 inch mark right here on my scale. And then I'm going to try to clamp the sucker down. Ain't much table left. Now, that should give me a stop at 9 inches. And I can push it up against there, push it up against there, and that should pop me a hole 1 inch from the top. So we're going to run them all through and punch that hole, and then we're going to set it up again to punch the next hole. There you go. Got a 9/16 hole in the center, 1 inch to the center from the top. Get a little bit of oil to put on that tooling. Alright, all this is a little bit of mineral oil. I'm just going to use a little bit on there so it's not pulling on my tooling quite so hard. If I can get it to soak up in this little brush. Okay, so we got 20 20 of them punched with the one hole. Now we need to set it up again to set one at, I want to put one at 4 inches down from the center. I mean 4 inches down from the top to the center of my hole. So I could probably use my regular stop for this and set it up at 4 inches. So that's what I'm going to set up next. I need to change my limit a little bit. See how my plug down there keeps picking up or not being all the way through? I'm not going through far enough, so I'm gonna put this thing in jog and I'm gonna reset my limit switches to make sure my punch is going down far enough. Yeah, when you're running one of these, you want to be checking stuff every so often because, you know, the depressor and the pressure and all, it kind of tends to move things around, move your fixtures around and where you got it set and your guards and all. It tends to move them around a little bit. So you want to be checking everything every so often. Make sure you're still lined up. Now we got to switch up to our 5/8 punch. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'll show you how to break this down, swap out your punches, and get back rolling again. Alright, so we'll open our guard up here and go ahead and I gotta move this stop back a little bit to get my die out. Slide that back out of the way. Take this. So you break your top nut loose. Alright. So then that's your punch right there. And then usually I just take my spanner wrench and I stick it up in the bottom right here, and that pushes my thing out where I can grab it. And then I like to take these out because when I store them, I stick this in there, so I'll take a hammer and knock that last little plug out. Alright, now I'll take them over here where I store my punches. Here, I like to keep them in order because they're hard to read sometimes, so I like to keep them all in order. So this next one should be my 5/8. Well, it's actually 11/16. I may not have a 5/8 one, so 11/16 will be fine. What I'm doing, yeah, 7/16. Yeah, I don't have a 5/8 one, so 11/16 it is, which would probably be better because it needs to be a good bit oversized for a masonry bit to go through it. All right, so the first thing you want to do is drop that punch down in there, and then you're gonna put this, your punch, on your nut, and then start tightening it up. Alright, now you don't want to just run this thing up tight and just take for granted it's lined up, because that'll get you killed. So what you do is just back it off a little bit, turn your machine on, run it down, get down here at the bottom, you may have to help line it up a little, stick it through the hole. And then you want to finish tightening up your nut within that hole to make sure everything stays lined up. And that's that. Alright, so now I'm going to reset my fence back at 1 inch. Okay, now that we've got all this, I need to put a line on it so I can stick them in the press brake and we can do a 90-degree bend on them. So that's going to be 4 inches from the bottom of here or 6 inches from there. So I'm going to lay these out and make them faster to mark them. I got some square pieces kind of on my table to help when you're building a frame or something. Got these 2 little square places right here where it helps you get stuff square. So a lot of times I'll just lay these on here like that. They're all square with each other right there. Just need a straight edge or a square, and I can put marks on them. Alright, we got all this marked up. Now we can head over that way and bend them. Alright, so I'm going to fire up the press brake. On this press brake I got a piece of wood in there because if you don't, these things will just slowly leak down. So you always got to keep a block in this style press brake. So I'm just going to crank it up and I'll back it up off the block a little bit. Now this press brake hasn't been ran in a little while, so I'm gonna let it run a little, kind of cycle the oil through, and then I'm probably gonna go up and down a few times to get it to bending pretty straight. I don't have an adjustable crown or nothing in the bottom of it, so it's whatever it is, but it's pretty good press brake, pretty accurate, but sometimes you need to run it up and down a few times to let the bed get kind of leveled out. Alright, first thing I want to do is to flip my 4-way die over. It's on a smaller V right here. I need the biggest V to bend that 3/8 thick material. So I've got some chains on the side of it. I'll lower my press brake down. I'll do is I'll allow the press brake to pick this 4-way die up because it's like 500 pounds or something stupid. It's heavy. But I can just roll it just like this, nice and easy on these chains. Pick the one I want, set her back down. Pop the chains off, ready to go. Alright, just from experience, I know that that's roughly a 90. I know by just the gap that I can see there, I know that it's pretty much about a 90-degree angle. So I'll set my depth stop as close as I can get it to right there. Alright, so the way this works is this thing comes down, and when it presses this first limit switch right here, well, when it presses this limit switch with that rod right there, it's going to make it go into slow speed. And then when it presses this next one down right here, it's going to go into extra slow speed. And then when it hits this one, then it stops. And that's all controlled by this little piece of rod in here, and then these 3 limit switches. So I run this down, and I want to set that one right there. I have to get up here to listen to it. It's about right there. I'll lock it into position. Now, put it into slow speed. I want it running at slow speed through this whole situation here, so I'm gonna tighten that one up there so everything's running at slow speed so it's not jumping, so I don't want it in rapid advance. Alright, now we're gonna go back over and take that one out, make sure it's on a 90, and we'll bend the next one, and then we may have to adjust this some from there because it's not exactly perfect. We may have to fine tune it. So let's see what we got. Mill scale, every once in a while you may have to go in here and just push that mill scale out of where you're bending at because it'll build up and you won't get as much bend out of it. And all that mill scale pops off the stuff. Alright, so these first two I overbent them a little bit, as you can see. It's a little overbent right there, so I'm just going to flip them over and stick them back in here and take a little out of them. Take a little more out of them. got all 20 brackets. Now we need to go to where they're going to be installed, and we're going to go and pop them in real quick. So come along, let's go. So we're here at the job. These are our posts, and they just got them sitting on this concrete. So we want to lock them down with our anchors, with our brackets, so that, if the wind gets up, strong windstorm or something, it's not going to pick this awning up and tear this building up. So we got them spread out, but I'm going to do this one column right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and screw them in with my lag bolts, and then I'm going to go back and screw that and do that hole. Make up my anchors. Okay guys, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy what you watched here. And come see me next time.